My thoughts on the fight being at 170 was like, who cares? The weight is just a number. Real gladiators back in the day, they didn't walk around with a scale. You show up and you fight. And I'm a fighter. That's what I do. Open weight class, with weight class. I'm glad I get to share the Octagon with him. You guys been seeing me call out DC for years now.
Max Holloway has never walked into an octagon at 170 pounds in his entire career. Not once. And yet, when the UFC told him that his rematch with Conor McGregor would happen at welterweight, a division he has never competed in, his response was basically, so what? That's the kind of mentality that either gets you knocked out or gets you a legacy. And Holloway has made it very clear which side of that line he's standing on. Let's set the scene. UFC 329, July 11th. T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Max Holloway versus Conor McGregor. The second chapter of a rivalry that started 13 years ago when both men were unknown kids trying to get their names on the map. Now they're two of the most recognizable fighters on the planet, and the rematch is finally here. But not at featherweight where they first met. Not at lightweight where both men have competed. At welterweight, 170 pounds. A weight class where McGregor has history and Holloway has none. And when asked about that, Holloway didn't blink. Didn't hesitate. Didn't ask for a renegotiation. He went on his YouTube channel and said something that tells you everything you need to know about who Max Holloway is as a fighter right now. My thoughts on the fight being at 170 was like, who cares? Weight is just a number. Real gladiators back in the day, they didn't walk around with a scale. You show up and you fight, and I'm a fighter. That's what I do, open weight class, whatever weight class. I'm glad I get to share the octagon with him. Real gladiators didn't walk around with a scale. That line alone should tell you the headspace Holloway is operating in. This isn't someone who's nervous about the weight disadvantage. This is someone who genuinely does not care, and more importantly, someone who understands that the mental side of a fight is often won or lost before the walkout even begins. Now, let's talk about the records. Max Holloway comes in at 27 wins and 9 losses in MMA, 23 of those wins inside the UFC. Conor McGregor enters at 22 wins and 6 losses, with 10 of those wins in the UFC. On paper, two elite fighters. But the story between these two goes much deeper than numbers. The first time they fought, it was August 2013. Both men were young, hungry, and fighting on prelim cards that most casual fans weren't even watching. McGregor won that night, and from that point on, both trajectories exploded. McGregor became the biggest star in UFC history, the man who sold out arenas on 2 continents, the man who made featherweight and lightweight must-see television. Holloway quietly became the most dominant featherweight of his generation, defended that title more times than almost anyone in the division's history, and then moved up to win the BMF title with one of the most dramatic finishes you'll ever see. 2 completely different paths to greatness. And now those paths cross again. But here's what makes this rematch more than just nostalgia. Holloway himself addressed the elephant in the room. That 2013 fight? He says it's essentially useless as a scouting tool. That old fight with him 13 years ago we fought. This question is asked a lot. Do you watch it? Can you take anything away from it? And the answer is no. It's 13 years. We were too young. Scrawny guys trying to make a name for ourselves. And now we're here. Think about what he's actually saying there. He's not dismissing the history. He's acknowledging that who these men were in 2013 has almost no bearing on who they are in 2026. That fight might as well have been between 2 completely different people. The sport has changed. Their bodies have changed. Their games have changed. Everything has changed. The only thing that stayed the same is the names. And Holloway respects what McGregor built. He made that very clear. He's not one of these fighters who pretends the other guy has done nothing. He acknowledged directly that McGregor changed the sport in a major way. That's not a small statement coming from a competitor. That's someone who understands legacy and what it takes to create one. But then comes the but. He did what he did. He changed the sport in a major way. Glad to have him back. But unfortunately, he's got to see me. That's the line. That's the whole fight in one sentence. Respect given. Stakes established. And then the reminder that none of that history changes what happens on July 11th. Holloway also pointed to something that doesn't get talked about enough in this matchup: the 5-year layoff. McGregor hasn't fought since July 2021. 5 years away from professional competition at the highest level in the sport is not a small gap. He's been training, yes. He looks in shape, absolutely. But there is a difference between training camp shape and fight shape. There is a difference between sparring and having someone across from you who is trying to take everything you've built and burn it to the ground in front of millions of people. That kind of pressure doesn't show up on a treadmill. It shows up on fight night. And Holloway isn't taking it lightly from his side either. He's not coming in assuming McGregor is rusty or diminished. He explicitly said he's preparing for the best version of McGregor possible. I'm getting ready for the best Conor McGregor there is. I know he's taking it serious. He looks like he's taking it very serious, and I'm excited for the challenge. That's how professionals think. You don't prepare for the version of your opponent you want to see. You prepare for the version that beats you. And if Holloway is genuinely locked in for peak McGregor, sharper, hungrier, more explosive than anyone expects after a long absence, then this fight has the potential to be something truly special. Now let's talk about the weight class situation one more time because it matters. McGregor has fought at 170 twice before. He defeated Nate Diaz there in their second fight, one of the most iconic bouts in UFC history, and he knocked out Donald Cerrone at welterweight in 13 seconds. He has proven he can carry that size and still be explosive and dangerous. Holloway has never been there. He's a natural featherweight who moved up to lightweight. Going to 170 is a jump. But here's the thing, if there's one fighter built for adapting, it's Holloway. His whole identity is about adjusting, evolving, and finding ways to make things work that shouldn't work. The man scored a walk-off knockout in the final second of a fight. Logic doesn't always apply to him. This is the kind of fight that doesn't come around often. Two former champions. A 13-year-old rivalry getting its proper conclusion. An unusual weight class stipulation that adds a layer of unpredictability most main events don't have. McGregor returning after 5 years of absence. Holloway coming off a loss and looking to remind everyone why he belongs at the top. July 11th is not just a UFC card. It is a moment, and Holloway is walking into it the same way he always walks into every moment, without a scale, without fear, and without any intention of walking out with a loss.